Let's start our seminar. So good morning once again. So international labor migration. So let me ask you some questions before we start the seminar. So I told you that there are three types of migration, right? And they are voluntary migration, forced migration, and illegal migration. Three types in general, okay? We have these three types of migration: forced, voluntary, and illegal migration. Okay. So, now, here's the first question I would like to ask. Which type of migration inflow is more relevant to Uzbekistan? Which means foreigners coming to our country. Okay? Out of these three, voluntary, forced, or illegal? Voluntary migration is the most practiced one. Yes, today we see that so many foreigners are working here and there. They come for tourism purpose or some business purpose, so which means for education purpose. So this is widely practiced type of migration. Okay. What about the second one, forced migration? Do people come to our country and seek refugee or asylum?
No.
I know.
But it happened in Afghanistan in Kyrgyzstan.
Okay.
They had a civil war in Kyrgyzstan. They were forced to move to the place.
No, I mean that people are coming to our country and seeking protection in our country. For example, in 2016, okay, in our president, he signed a new law in, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 29th of May. Now we have refugee law, which is very, according to United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Okay? The document is very nice, which means from that time, if anyone has problem in his home country and he reaches our land, our border, and he applies for protection, we are obliged to offer them protection until we make sure that whether that person is really asylum seeker or not. Okay? So now we have that law. Of course, if you compare that number with foreign countries, some other countries, the share of people seeking refugee in our country is very low. It's very low. Okay? Good. What about illegal migration? Do people are crossing our country without documents?
No.
Or coming to our country and exceeding their time period of stay? Yes. Okay? Yes. If there is anyone among you who is living, in bordering with Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, or Tajikistan, so you can see, daily, some people are crossing without proper documents. Okay? But the number is not big. Okay? It's not big. Okay, anyway, all of them. How about in the case of US? In the case of America, US? All three cases. Okay? All three cases in very high level.
But the most is illegal.
So the most one is voluntary migration, okay? So people are migrating to the country, and we know that the refugees, as a refugee, they would like to ask, that protection from a country which is richer and more democratic. The US is the oldest democratic country. And regarding illegal migration, it is clear, right? The number of, that people are crossing the border of Mexico to the US, in daily basis, thousands of people try to cross. Okay? It's very frequently practiced. Good. And which type of, migration outflow? Voluntary migration. Right. So now people are traveling for different purposes with proper documents, okay? Because they want. All right? You work and travel. What about forced migration? Forced migration. So It's not open, but you know, there isn't any country in the world where people seek some type of protection from other countries, okay? Including our countries too. Some Uzbek people are seeking protection from other countries with different reasons, okay? But still, the number is there, available, all right? Good. How about illegal migration? Do Uzbek people or our citizens are illegally migrating to other countries?
Yes.
Yes, okay? Yes. For example, the neighboring Kazakhstan or Russia is frequently practiced, illegal migration without proper documents. Okay, good. How about Americans? Americans, migrating
No.
to other countries, for example. Which of them?
First one.
Voluntary migration is the greatest, okay, for traveling purpose, for other purpose, they are traveling a lot, okay, good. And what about forced one? Do American people, seek protection from other countries?
No.
It's also not exception, they also, right? For example, all of the whistleblowers, they seek protection from anti-American governments. Edward Snowden, for example, good question, good example, right? He is now seeking protection in Russia. He is an asylum seeker. And many other cases, okay? Good. Regarding illegal migration, for Americans, do they illegally migrate?
Maybe once.
Why not? Yes, okay. There are so many Americans, for example, maybe they are living illegally, crossing the border due to some other reasons. Maybe they were criminals, were not allowed to leave the country because of certain restrictions. It's possible. Or another thing, that illegal migration doesn't mean leave the country without documents. There are so many Americans who visit, other countries, but they exceed their visas,
Visa provision.
which means they will immediately become illegals, okay? So many cases. Good. So Lord, among these three, it is clear, people, they are doing voluntarily. This one, they are doing it because they are forced to do it, right? Forced migration because of problems at home. And the third one is also considered as a voluntary migration, but with very high risk. Risk of, for example, traveling is very risky. We have borders like, for example, DMZ in North-South Korea, or borders between South Sudan and North Sudan, or border between Pakistan and India. Those borders are very strictly controlled, and you may even have a shot from your back if you are crossing the border without any warning. It's also possible. All right, physically it's very risky. Another one thing, that crossing the countries, okay, you have to pay for smugglers a lot of money, financial, that sacrifice is also there. So which means the risk is very high, but people are doing it. Yes, people are doing it, especially to reach developed countries. So how are they reaching those countries? In different ways. So I got some pictures from the internet. For example, you can see this gentleman hiding in the bumper of a car while crossing the border. And here is another case. He wanted to do the same way. And here is another guy. He was very invisible, but still he was caught. And here is, one Russian lady, so that Russian girl. She wanted to cross the border in one of Arabian countries. Okay, by the help of one Arab guy, they were caught. She is in the dashboard of a car inside. And you can see this gentleman, he's hiding in the engine of a car. Okay? You can imagine how hot place is this one. Yes? And all the gas that comes out from the engine. Too dangerous. Okay? Good. And you can see this gentleman, he found a very smart way of crossing the border. So which means he became just like a sixth, right? Yes. But he was caught. All right? So these are all some tactics that people try to use, okay? But especially in those developed countries where immigration is a very big issue, their immigration officers are very trained. Okay, very trained. If they just have any suspicion, I think something is wrong with this car, what will they do? They will ask you, okay, turn off the engine of the car, leave the car. And they have a tool, certain tool, they just put on the car, which will show whether heart is beating or not. Okay? Very easy. If there is anything alive in the car, then heart will beat. So then if they find that one, they will say, okay, so I think someone is hiding in here. Then they will find out. Most probably they found that way. Okay? Good. So another thing, reaching the country illegally, okay, has different ways too. Most frequently practiced through the sea. It's the safest one, okay. And there is whether you heard that news or not, you read it or not, one African person, okay, he brought his son from Africa to Europe in the bag, in the airplane, where usually this kind of luggage is kept in a place where oxygen is not enough. Luckily, this young boy did not die, okay? And it is the indication that in some of the poor countries, in the airport, they don't have even those scan check. Okay? So poor. Good. Another way is, that between those countries, they dig tunnels, smugglers, for making business. You want to reach that country? Pay me a few thousands of dollars, I will take you. Very safe. Okay? And it seems that some people tried this one too, crossing with their own cars. Okay? And this one, the most frequent one. Just jumping over the border between the countries. Okay? Good. So now please watch a video. It's related to our seminar for economic integration and to our today's topic, labor migration. Okay? Good. So now you watch and pay attention to all the details.
No tariffs for Mexico, as President Trump this weekend struck an immigration deal. He says the Mexican government has committed to deploy 6,000 National Guard troops to southern Mexico to stop the flow of migrants heading north. The deal is not without political controversy here in the U.S. And that's where we bring in White House correspondent Mark Irons. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Lauren. The president's threat to place tariffs on Mexican imports coming to the U.S. caused talks to ensue between the two countries. Now we're hearing debate about what the agreement actually accomplishes. As President Trump promises, there's even more to come.
President Trump says his threat to slap tariffs on Mexico pressured the country to respond. He writes, Mexico has agreed to take strong measures to stem the tide of migration through Mexico and to our southern border. Mexico's commitment includes deploying 6,000 National Guard troops to the border with Guatemala to stem the flow of migrants from Central America and returning U.S. asylum seekers to Mexico as they wait out their cases. Neither measure is entirely new. The country says it's just accelerating its prior commitment to deploy National Guard troops, and about 10,000 U.S. asylum seekers have already been returned to Mexico. Mexico's foreign minister adds, just because someone wants to move, that doesn't make them a criminal. But he does want migrants to register so Mexico can keep track of people moving through the country. Democrats criticize the deal. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer tweets, in February, Donald Trump declared a bogus emergency to build a wall he said will solve immigration. Then he made a bogus tariff threat even GOP and Congress rejected. Now he claims a bogus deal Mexico volunteered to do months ago. Common thread? All bogus. We all know it. President Trump pushes back. If President Obama made the deals that I have made, both at the border and for the economy, the corrupt media would be hailing them as incredible, and a national holiday would be immediately declared.
Wall Street likes the news. The stocks jumped this morning after the threat of tariffs was dropped. And President Trump teased there's even more to the deal that will be revealed in the not-too-distant future. And this could all resurface in 45 days when the U.S. and Mexico evaluate their agreement to see if it's working. Lauren?
White House correspondent Mark Irons. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, so I hope the video was clear for all of you. So let me ask a question here. So first question is from the video, how does American government uses NAFTA? What is NAFTA? North American Free Trade Area, yeah? That agreement for their own political interests. What were the rules and regulations of FTA, Free Trade Area? No tariffs between the member countries, which means Mexico and US are the members. So their goods, are not imposed by any tariffs, yes? But from the video, you can see that the Americans are using, this agreement for their political interests by threatening Mexican side. How are they threatening? So they are, Donald Trump, he said that they may impose tariffs on Mexican goods, merchandise, unless they stop illegal migration. Okay? So now it's the request from American side, using that power. We know for which country, trading is more important, for Mexicans or for Americans?
Mexicans.
For both it's important, but for Mexicans it's very important, right? From the data that we showed, that I showed you, over 60% of trade is they are exporting to US, over 60%, 66% to the US, which means they are the biggest trade partner of Mexico. Very important. Okay? So now, what they are asking to do, Americans, now we have to stop the flow of illegal migrants to US. Are they asking it to stop from Mexico itself? No, not only. They are asking to stop it from the other countries too. That there is a between the Mexico and Guatemala, there is a border. All the Central American or Latin American people, they are using Mexico as transit country to reach that border. Okay? So therefore, they are asking them to stop those illegal migration from those countries. It seems that they agreed to mobilize 6,000 troops of people to guard. Take back your asylum seeker back. People who are seeking asylum in the US from Mexico, okay, of course they were blaming, one of the number one reasons is blaming the government, okay, because of certain reason, if I stay at home, my life is in danger. The government is saying, okay, now they have this kind of cases, just forgive them maybe, or don't make any problem with them and take them back. Okay? So, what do you think? What is the likelihood of Mexican government fulfilling their request to stop illegal migration? Will they do it or not, Mexicans?
No, of course.
They will try.
If Donald Trump's, that threat is credible, which means he really means to do it, then it means that Mexicans will do it because they don't want to have their problem with their trade, which is more important. Okay, $1 billion of revenue. Okay. So let's now differentiate between certain terminologies, organic expressions. The first one is emigration and immigration. How are these two words different? Whom do we call as immigrant and immigrant?
Leaving the country. Immigration is to reach the country.
So a person who leaves his own or her own country,
He's immigrant.
and he crosses the border of his, the boundaries of the country, then that person will be considered as immigrant. Yes. And that person, if that person arrives to the destination country, then they will be considered as immigrant. Good. Okay. And what about, if you compare past migration and present migration? Is there any difference? Or it's still same?
Yes, there is difference.
The difference is very big, yes? If you compare just 50 years ago and today.
People migrated because of the wars. Right now they're migrating because of the economic wealth of the country.
Because of the war, it happened today, it happens too.
Yeah.
Right? Because of those, unrest in the Middle East and African countries, it's also happening. But if you compare today and the past, one of the main reasons why it's so different is because of transportation. Yes? So today, transportation, they have all types of transportation for migration, and there is very different in terms of their cost of traveling. For example, if you consider the real prices of ticket prices, real value, real price, for 50 years ago, today's airplane tickets are much cheaper compared to 50 years ago. Why? Because that time, those airplanes were not oil efficient, one. Cost was very high. Another one is today there is very high competition in terms of airline companies. Okay? That's another reason. And now we have access to all information through internet, okay, which also increases. So today, if you compare today migration in the past, the number mobility of people increased so significantly. Okay? What about economic and non-economic motives of migration? What are economic motives of migration?
Because of unemployment in their local country, for example, people migrate to another country to earn some money.
Right, that one, okay, for employment. If the intention to find a job in a foreign country and earn and economically improve your life, it is economic motive, okay? What about non-economic motives? Just traveling, sightseeing, okay? That is one, probably, okay? Or people who are seeking refugees is also another, right? Or for health issue, they're going out, non-economic, okay, good. What about direct costs and indirect costs of migration? What are the direct costs? If you would like to migrate, you have to, encounter with some direct costs, right? Like transportation fees, yes, cost of travel, good. Once you reach the destination country, it doesn't mean that job is waiting for you. Yes, you have to search for job or housing issue. All of them are direct. What about indirect costs?
Salaries?
The salary is direct. I think that it,
For example, they can be homesick.
yes, that psychic cost, yes.
Yes.
You feel that when once you are abroad, you feel homesick.
Social inequality.
Yes, and there is the cultural shock issue.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And it doesn't mean that while traveling there you're 100% healthy. If you have some health issue, then it's going to be another cost that you have to do, which you were not planning. Okay? Good. And what about brain drain, brain gain, and brain circulation? What is brain drain?
Living much more comfortable country. The willingness of living.
So people will leave the country.
People leave countries. What kind of people?
Smart people.
Skilled. Intellectuals, right? Intellectually, strong and knowledgeable people. They leave their home countries for the sake of finding an employment where their skills are rewarded by higher wages. Okay, but there are some exceptions too. for example, in any country you can find, there are people, no matter how much you offer, that person will not leave his own country. Very patriotic person. Okay? Okay? We have that type of people too. Okay? What about brain gain? Countries who are receiving them, those skilled people, right? Receiving. Most of the developed countries, they have special programs. You know, to encourage people to come to their country, and they are trying to, you know, promote that one by offering high salaries, jobs, yes, permanent residency. Good. And what about brain circulation?
It's like shaping.
That's all the process.
It's two processes. So, for example, if you leave the country and you are working in one developed country, and after gaining a lot of skills and experience, if you come back, it will be considered as brain circulation. And it doesn't mean only coming back to your home country. Let's say you did some job and, you know, they gained some experience in Germany. Then you got a job in Russia, then you came to Russia. It's still considered as brain circulation. So brain is traveling. Okay? So that one, brain circulation. Good? So now we have exercise 1. Alright? So this is very important exercise. So which we will do together. And please read it. By the time I will draw the graph. Okay. So now we are considering labor migration between two countries. Or in other words, from Mexico to
The US.
US. Okay? And now we have data given over here. So now data before migration, data after migration, and now we have maximum possible wages in both countries. Okay? So now from here you can witness that in the United States, employers, they are willing to pay maximum of $20 of wage, no more. It's maximum possible. While in Mexico it is $15. Okay? $15. Good. So now let me show you the first question. Using the statistics provided in the table that we have seen, okay? Now we have to accurately draw the labor demand curves of both countries. And we have to properly indicate the cross points of quantities of labor and wages before and after migration. Okay? So now, again, let's look at this data. So, Lord, first of all, we are saying that there was no migration between these two countries. And we are saying that the quantity of labor is same in both countries, where there are 100 Americans who are working, contributing to American economy, and we have another 100 people who are Mexicans who are working in Mexico. Okay? But their wages are different. While in US, they have these 100 people, their wages are $15, yes? This is the point that we need. In Mexico, the wages are much lower, which is $5, paid for those 100 Mexicans who are working there. Okay? Good. So this is. What about, and I explained during the lecture, when, labor migration, labor mobility is allowed between the countries, if the wage differences are so huge between the countries, what will happen?
Migration.
Labor migration will happen, right? Which means Mexicans, they can see that, their wages their labor is rewarded much higher in the United States, then they will be migrating to this country, find employment, and pay more. All right? As a result, so Mexicans will move to US. So now that labor migration happened, and this date is given, which means that additional 50 people moved to US. So actually there were 100 Americans, but now there are additional 50 joined from Mexico. Okay. Look, but the wages are now $10, decreased. It used to be $15, but now it decreased to $10. How is it possible?
Because of immigrants are ready to work for $10 wage. That's why the wage.
Now they are coming to the US, which means when they arrive they have no employment, which means they are unemployed Americans. The only way to get a job to offer labor for cheaper. As a result, that competition will happen between migrants and non-migrants. In the long run, wages will decrease, and it decreased to $10. Okay, which means at this point, 150 people are receiving $10 salary. While in Mexico, vice versa happened, right? Because these 50 people left, wages increased. Why? Shortage of labor. Right? So there is higher demand in Mexican economy for that labor, but it's short. As a result, they are offering higher salary. So now you can see that wages in both countries is same. And it will be that stop point of migration, labor migration. For Mexicans, migrating to America, there is no incentive. Same wage, okay? Good. So now, you can draw that labor demand curve for both countries by joining these dots, okay? So this is demand curve in US for labor. This one demand curve for in Mexico, okay? Mexico. So if you have, let's say, a question like this, you will be given in the answer sheet this kind of graphs with all of these numbers. If you are asked to draw these curves, you have to draw it very nicely. If you don't draw it nicely, the calculation that you are going to make will be wrong. Okay? Wrong. So, question number 2. Calculate the domestic output for both countries before migration, labor migration happened. Okay? Which we are considering that only American labor was employed in the US. Total output. Area is considered this shape, where it's going to be employer surplus. He is willing to pay $20, but actual price of labor is 15, which means the rest is now he is gained, surplus. Okay? And this amount is paid for American workers. These two shapes will give us total output before migration. Okay? You can easily calculate it. Right? First, we have the surface of this triangle, then we have to find the surface of this rectangle. So now, before migration, So surface of this triangle,
5,
employer surplus 1/2 times
5.
5 times 100, which will give us
250.
250. Good. And we have this shape, right? Wages paid to the employees.
15.
This is now 15 times 100, number of employers, it is 1500. Total output in the US is 250 plus 1500, which gives us 1750 total output. Now we should do it for both countries, for Mexican case, where 100 Mexicans are working in Mexico, and you can see this triangle represents employer surplus, okay? So again, before migration, the surface of the triangle employer surplus 1/2 times 10, it's 10,
Yeah.
okay? Times 100 Mexican labor. So which is equal to 500. Yes? Okay. Then this is employer's payment, right? Another, it's rectangular shape. 5 times 100, which is equal to 500. Total output in
1,000.
Mexico is 1,000. Okay, good. And now we are asked, also find the sum of total outputs of both countries, total of both. Which means we have to get the sum of this and this one in Mexico and in the US. Which means the total output generated from both countries, 1750 plus 1000, which will give us 2750. Okay. Combined output. World output. Good. So next question. Calculate the domestic output for both countries after labor migration happened. Okay? After. So now, if we are looking at that case, now wages reduced from 15 to 10, because now wages are lower, employers are able to hire more people and increase output, yes? So now, shape is increasing from this part to this one, this shape. So where you can see that employer surplus increased, yes, increased. So after migration, again, we will consider this triangle 1/2 times 10 times 150, which will give us 750. And the wages paid for the employees, this rectangular area. Again, 10 times 150, which will give us 1500. Total output after migration in the US now 2250. Yeah? Good. And what happened in Mexico? Because these 50 people left and they are not contributing in the economy, right? Which means that output reduced here to this shape. While they increased, but here it's reduced. Now you can see after migration that employer surplus decreased, yes. So this triangle 1/2 times 5 times 50 Mexican workers, which is equal to 125. Good. What about the payments that were made for those people? So this rectangular one, 10 times 50, which gives us 500. Total output generated 635. Okay? Americans are gaining while they are losing in terms of output. Okay, just a second. Let's see. And another, also find the sum of total outputs of both nations combined. Which means this one and this one. Which will give us total output after migration, which is equal to 2250 plus 625, which will give us 2875. 75. Okay? Good. Now question. Compare the total outputs for both countries from 2 and 3. Total output before and after migration. Before migration, these countries combined, they produce 2,750 dollars of output. After migration, now, did it change?
Yes.
Did it increase or decrease? Increased by 125 units. Yes? Okay. Which shows that output in the world increased. Output in the world increased because labor migration was allowed. What's the reason? One very important reason is these 50 people who used to work in Mexico, okay, their labor was underpaid, undervalued. While in the US, their labor was overpaid, overvalued. Okay? When the competition between this labor happened, then it reached its equilibrium wage. Okay? Good. Now please look at the graph again. Before migration to the US, it was the total output, right? After migration, this much increased. What about this rectangular shape? Does it belong to American output? Does it belong to America? This much is paid for Mexicans, yes?
Yes.
Which means if they want to take it back home, they can do it anytime. It belongs to them. While you can see this actual shape is net gain for US. Before migration, they did not have it. Because of cheap labor, employers, they increase the surplus by this triangle. It's good. What about Mexican side? If you look, what about the employees, workers? Did they lose? They gained, right? Because these 100 people, they were used to pay $5 only. But now, after migration, at home they are getting twice my salary, and they are 15 of that country mates, they are receiving the same salary, which means their welfare increase. Their life is much better. Okay? And another thing is, but regarding in the US case, the labor, American labor is disadvantaged. Because of that, competition, they are paid less. Okay? Argument, another. But what about the employer? Because now they have to pay twice more, the surplus decrease. Okay? Decrease. So as a whole, the conclusion is when labor migration is allowed in this case, total output, world welfare will increase. Okay, will increase. Okay. Do you have any questions? Very simple. Very simple. Good. So now this is the graph. Now we have another case. After this one, I will give you a break. So look. Now again, we are considering labor market of two countries: American labor market and Korean labor market. So this is labor demand in Korea, and this one labor demand in the US. So in this case, What is different? Let's say the quantity of labor is same in both countries, but we can see the difference is in their wages. Where in Korea they pay $10, while in the US it's paid 3 times more, $30. Okay, good. Now we are making strong assumption here. Let's say one assumption can be made that American government strongly restricts any labor migration to the US, which means Koreans are not able to come and work there. One. Another hypothesis can be made, okay? Koreans are very homogeneous people, which means that whatever the wages are offered outside of the country, they are not willing to leave the country and work there. They prefer working in Korea, okay? This case. Which means labor migration between these two countries is not happening. It's not happening. Good. Now, how about the impact of capital flow on wage differences in these two countries? Now we consider that wage. So this is very nice essay type question. You can be asked during the exam. Okay? If you have provided this graphic, then you should explain it in words. So look, wages are very high in the US. Do employers like paying high wages?
No.
They don't. They don't like paying high wages, right? If government is not allowing for them to hire foreign cheap labor, there is one way of them to avoid that type of paying through
Outsourcing.
outsourcing. Okay? Outsourcing capital. They will invest throughout the country, which means they will close thousands of companies in the United States, and they will bring their capital to South Korea, FDI, and open those companies here and hire cheap labor in Korea. Okay? It's outsourcing. So if that American employers are practicing outsourcing, capital is flowing, capital flight, what will happen to this labor demand curve?
Decrease.
Is it going to decrease or shift?
Shift to the left.
It will shift to the left because now there is less demand.
Yes.
Less companies are available.
Wage
Okay?
increase.
What will happen to demand curve in Korea?
Shift to the right.
It will shift to the right. Okay, like this.
Demand increases.
So what will happen in the long run then? It said that at this point, this many people left without jobs. Yes. What do you think? Are they will they agree to work for cheaper wages the next day? No.
Unemployment rate.
Okay, then no. But in the long run, with those unemployed people, their savings are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Then they will be willing to work for lower wages, which means that unemployed will be competing with employed ones. As a result, wages start slowly decreasing to $20. What about Korean case? It's vice versa,
Yes.
right? Why? Because there is limited number, but demand is higher. Demand is high. If they want to encourage them to work more, they have to pay them more salary. As a result, wages will increase. Then that you may ask an issue question here. But if this is fixed, if the labor is fixed, how can they produce more? Right? Because at this point they were all employed. How can they produce twice more?
Technology.
It's labor itself. Technology can be one factor.
Yes.
So here, the main thing is wage incentive. Alright? Wage incentive. let's suppose you are owned by students. Let's suppose I'm the owner of our cafeteria in our university, that canteen. And I'm looking for one waiter and one waitress. And I'm making announcements whether you are willing to work here. I will pay, for example, 50,000 sous per day. Most probably, none of you will agree to do that job. Okay? But if you go to work and travel, and you do the same type of job with a very big smile on your face,
Because of weight.
right? The main factor is because you are paid much higher there. Okay? So which means if these people are paid much higher salary, they will be very willing to do some overtime work. Plus, high wages, it means that your labor is rewarded, you will be doing even better. Producing even more. Good. And this is the case of capital flow. Wages in both countries is going to be same. After this point, when wages are going to be same, there is no incentive for Americans to invest here because labor wage is same, if it's the main reason. Okay? Good. What about in the second case we consider product flows, yes? Which again, we can experience this kind of changes in the graph.
Product flow. Yes.
So how is it possible?
They are expert.
Labor migration is not happening, right? Let's say capital flight is not also practiced. Americans are not outsourcing.
Yes.
But because of this cheap labor in South Korea, the goods and services, the goods they are merchandise they're producing is high quality and very cheap. If the price is significantly different compared to the prices in the US, let's say textile or clothing. Even though Americans are a very patriotic nation, significant difference that overcomes that patriotism.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So which means if there is free trade agreement between these two countries, so now Americans will be buying cheap Korean goods, Korean clothes. If they are buying from them, if it's cheap, what will happen in the US?
Welfare will increase.
People will be happy.
And this
But what about employers? What about those companies, textile companies? They will be losing in competition to Korean textile producers, yes? Which means that in here, those textile industry will get smaller and smaller, and maybe maybe they will be shut down. As in, what will it cost? The number of unemployment will increase in the country, which means demand will be less in the country. Okay? Less demand because they are shut down. Which means that now unemployed people again employed people. These unemployed people will be competing with employed ones. In the long run, wages will again decrease in the US, while it will be increasing in Korea. Because high demand for labor. Why? Now there is high demand for their goods from the US, which means they have to expand their production. To expand their production, they need labor, right? But labor is limited. The only way to encourage them to work overtime, they have to pay higher wages. And it will continue up to this, when the wages are going to be same in both countries. Okay? Okay. So exercise 2. Exercise 2. So here, let's suppose if you have a similar question, if you are asked to solve similar question exercise in your exam, you will have this kind of graphs provided. Okay? Not to have any confusions. Good. So now, again, we are considering American labor market. Okay? So this demand curve represents demand for labor in the US. And this is supply curve of American labor. Okay? American labor supply curve. For now, just ignore this Mexican labor supply. Okay? Good. So now from here you can see that maximum wages that Americans, okay, that employers they are willing to pay is only this $100, no more. And because of that supply and demand curve equilibrium point, now the wages are paid $70, and the number of employed people are 30. Okay? Good. And minimum wage is possible in the United States is $50, which means if the wages are going, the wages are offered less than 50, they are not willing to work. Okay, they are not willing to work. So this is the situation in the economy now, labor market. Okay, so from here, we know this triangle represents employer surplus. This one is employee surplus. Okay, the higher the wages are paid, good, better for them. Employee surplus, good. So first question here is calculate the employer surplus in the case of hiring only American workers. So which means the 30 people are all American. So now we are asked to calculate this employer surplus surface, which is very easy to find. Yes? Okay. How do we find it? We have already all the data given here. So A surface dot employer surplus 1/2 times 30 times 30, which is equal to 450. Employer surplus in this case is 450. Good? Okay. So next, please read. Suppose that American and Mexican governments, okay, they decided to sign a strict 1 year, not 2 years, 1 year migrant labor contract, according to which the Mexican side agreed to supply the needed labor, Mexican labor, if the wages are 30, if the Americans are willing to pay $30 per month. Okay? So Mexicans, according to the contract, we are going to supply, the Mexican labor to your country if you pay $30 per month. Okay? Good? And in this graph, that as Mexican migrant, this curve represents Mexican labor supply. Okay? Good. So, in the case of hiring only Mexican migrant workers, now we have to find employer surplus. At this point, look, what's the wage they are asking?
30.
Mexicans, $30, which is $20 less than minimum wage that Americans ask. Okay? So if there is such a choice between the employee, between the natives, non-immigrants, and immigrants, which labor they are most probably to choose? Mexicans, because it's cheap. They can pay less, hire more, and increase output. Yes? And benefit more. Okay. So now we are making assumption that employers are hiring Mexicans. And now we are asked to find employer surplus by hiring only Mexicans. Okay? We are saying here, why only Mexicans? Because Americans at this point, they don't work for $30. Okay? Which means employer surplus increased. It used to be this small because they were paying $70, but now they are paying only 30, and the rest is their surplus. Okay? So now in this case, in case B, that first sub question. So the employer surplus with Mexican labor, okay? 1/2 times 70 and times 70, which is equal to 2250, right? 2250.
2450.
2450, okay. 2450. 2450. So now, this is the. Now you can see that it increased, yes?
Yes.
Because they are paying less. So now, next question is, find the net gain in employer surplus. What about the net gain?
Difference between
The difference between the previous surplus and the
next.
current surplus, which means that with American labor and with Mexican labor. So you can find that net gain is
2450 minus.
2450 minus 450, which is equal to 2,000. This is the net gain. Is it good for employers?
Yeah.
Very good. They are gaining so much. Very good. Okay. So now look. But what about these natives? If government is allowing for Mexicans to come and work while they are losing their jobs, yes?
Yes.
Is it okay with them?
No.
No. It is one of the main reasons for anti-migration sentiment that is developed in developed countries. Okay? So therefore now this question, that exercise continues. So here, consider that the U.S. government puts the interest of its people in the first place. America first. Okay? And therefore they requested from the employers who are enjoying that surplus to pay compensation wages of $50, which is minimum wage, for those unemployed people, 30 people. Okay? Also, suppose that the American unemployed workers, the 30 people, would be happy to receive compensation wages of $50 until the end of that US-Mexico contract. Because this contract is only for 1 year. Which means that if it's the case, these people will lose their jobs. So government in advance, not to have that migration issues, complaints. So now they are asking from the employers, if you want to hire these Mexicans, okay, then you have to pay compensation
Minimum wage.
of minimum wage for them. And we are making assumption that Americans, those people who are for 1 year, they are not going to work, but they're very willing to
Work.
accept this $50 for not making any labor. Okay? This is the assumption. So now, if it's the case, calculate the employer's net gain. Okay? In the case of hiring only Mexican workers and paying compensation for unemployed natives. Okay? Good. So now in this case, the wages they are paying is $30, yes?
Yes.
So the surplus we already found is 2,000, net one, yes?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
It's net gain.
Yeah.
But now the government is asking them to pay compensation of this much.
Yeah.
1,500.
So to solve the C question, so now we have to find this compensation that is paid, yes?
Yes.
That or should be paid. which is surface of this compensation, 50 times 30, which is 1500 compensation fee. What about the net gain?
2,000 minus.
So now net gain, so to get net gain, right? 2,000 minus 1,500, which will give us
500.
500. 500. So in this case, do they benefit?
Yes.
Is it good for employers?
Yeah, it's good.
Still good, yes? So everyone is happy. Mexicans who used to, for example, their wages are much lower than $30, they are paid much higher. These people, by not working, receiving compensation, they are also happy. While employers, they are also happy to get gain. Now, is it really, good for them? In this case, it's good. Why? Because it's greater than 450.
And it can be billions.
Before, this 450 was with only natives, right? But now, with making everyone satisfied, happy, they were able to increase it to buy for $50, okay? Which means they're gaining additional 50. It's good. But, look, we are done with this exercise. But if this, let's say, supply curve of the US, it's not like this, but the minimum wage is 60, okay? Like this, let's suppose. Surplus, it will be same, but they have to pay compensation of this much, yes? 60 multiplied by 30, which is 1,800. 2,000 minus 1,800, it will be 200, yes? Is it good for employers? No. It would be better to just hire Americans and gain 450.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So which means if the case is like this, then employers, it's not good for us, so then we are not willing to pay compensation and we are not going to hire Mexican workers.
We are patriotic.
Okay? So therefore, it may change. Alright? Good. So now we talked about theories of migration, yes? Now you have to explain me the theories with relation to labor migration. Okay? Good. First one is neoclassical theory of migration. So according to this theory, what about the people's decision to migrate?
They do cost-benefit calculation.
Cost-benefit calculations, yes. So that potential labor migrants, before migrating, they will calculate cost and benefits. If they expect that reward is going to be higher compared to cost, then they will make decision to move. Okay, good. Second one is human capital theory. What about human capital? What was according to this theory? How is it related to labor migration? So, yes. So human capital, country by country, rewarded differently. If those, intellectually smart people, okay, those skilled people, they find, they know that they have employment opportunities in abroad, which is, paid much higher, then those people may decide to migrate, okay? Unless they are very patriotic people. Then what about social capital theory of migration? Social capital?
For example, your social networks may help you to avoid the risk and some possible effects of the future.
Yes.
It can be housing.
Yes.
reduces the cost.
It's one of the main factors of, driving migration.
Housing.
Our friends and family members or community, okay? If you have friends, they provide us with perfect information, which immediately reduces the cost and risk of migration. Before migration, if I go there, there is labor or work waiting for me, or there is no work waiting for me. So then you can make decisions beforehand. Okay?
In case of Russia.
So we are saying that it will reduce the cost of migration, those networks, because if it's your some friend, they will help you in terms of traveling or finding a house or finding a job. Good. What about new economics theory of migration? New economics theory. What was it?
Stability of economics in the country, factors, exchange rate,
Economic
inflation rate also.
To avoid future uncertainties regarding income of a family, right? So according to the theory, we made an assumption that some households, they make a decision to send one of their family members abroad for future uncertainties. I explained it in terms of Venezuelan case, right? 2 households in Venezuela. After that hyperinflation case, economy was suffering a lot. Those households with family members who are migrants and labor migrants, their living standards was not bad compared to those without migrant. Okay? Good? And what about cumulative causation theory of migration? What was it? It leads to income inequality.
Yes.
How does it lead to income inequality?
Why does it just migrate and send remittances back to zero?
Okay. So now we are calling, why do we call it causation? Cumulative causation, okay? The act of migration causes others to migrate
Chain reaction.
in the community. We discussed it, right? So if in one rural area, one person, is migrating and sends, huge amount of remittances, which means that their living standards in that community immediately change. As we already said, they will be spending, buying nice houses or building houses, or in terms of they will be buying cars, whatever. Their lives improve. In community, we are causing other people to migrate. How? Because they also see the beauty of remittance. If we also travel, when we send money and our house, then I will be also to rebuild my house, buy nice car, okay, that way. Good. And I said that there is another important, it causes inequality, because those families, when they receive high salary, there will be inequality in the society. And I said another thing regarding investment, which also causes indirectly people to migrate. So for example, let's suppose I have a brother who is working abroad and he's doing very good business, and he has, he had saved a little money and he sent it to me, $1 million. Because I'm economist, yes, it's very bad to keep that money idle, yes. So one thing I may suggest to my brother, why don't we, invest this money? Buy some, asset. Maybe for that big money, I can buy very big, that production facility, buildings, yes. Which, because I'm teaching here, I'm not able to run it. Which means if I buy it, using my brother's money, those people who used to work there, they will lose their jobs. It means they will be more likely to migrate to Russia or somewhere else. Okay? Good. Segmented labor market theory, how about this one? segmented?
There is a demand for a certain kind of jobs or employment opportunities.
So according to the theory, migrants, they do not make intention of going and working unless there is the demand for their labor. Okay? For example, people, they do not go to Vatican because there is no need of any other foreign labor. Okay? It's in a very small country, it's very full sufficient. Okay?
And they will never come from it.
World system theory, what was it? We considered FDI, foreign direct investment, right? Yeah, it can outsource. But then FDI is served as information flow. Let's suppose, for example, that American Coca-Cola company, let's suppose it was the first one which came to our country. When they invested to our country, that FDI, and opened their company here first and started producing and selling to Uzbek customers. One, delegates, okay, a group of Americans, they came. And most probably with those, specialists who can run the company. Which means when they came, our Uzbek people had a chance to communicate with them. And while talking, they were getting information about the US. What about employment opportunities, what the life is like there, what other good things we may enjoy, which means maybe some people were encouraged by those people to leave. Another thing, hundreds of Uzbek people, our local people, they were taken to the US for training purpose. Which, with their own eyes, they were witness, there are so many labor opportunities there. When they came back, they went back, or they encouraged some family members to go, good salaries paid. Okay? So it is called as, it serves as information flow. Do you understand? And it is empirically tested in many cases. Okay? Some sociologists that Macy, he used this data. Okay? Good. What about this graph? We said that there is a relationship between increase in migration and economic growth, yes? How does economic growth increase in migration?
People have money to go to somewhere. They're able to pay for transport.
Right. So today we have lots of very poor countries where people, they really want to go abroad and work, but they are not doing it because they are not able to cover the cost of traveling, transportation. So once the economy start growing, it means that on average people will be receiving higher salary and able to cover the cost of traveling. As a result, migration also will increase. Okay? But we said that it will stop after a certain point. When economy increase, economic growth reaches this level, then it will stop. How?
The same salary.
One possible way, there is same salary at home and in the destination. There is no need to go and work there, right? Another thing is, those people who left already, they will be coming back. Because salary is same, why do I have to be, abroad and be discriminated? Or be a stranger? Okay. Good? Good essay type question. Another one, democracy and migration. When country experiences growth and democracy level increases, migration will also increase. So how is it possible?
In case of Soviet Union, collapse of Soviet Union.
when Soviet Union collapsed after the gentrification attempt. So we now have some democracy level, significantly increased. That's why we're opening our borders and migration started.
Okay, but it's yes, we may consider this. So usually to consider this one, countries with highly autocratic political system, autocracy, vice versa of democracy. If they, change rule of government, and they are doing it democratic way, in early stages, okay, people start migrating more because of democracy, people are free to go anywhere, right? And in early stages of democracy, those people who experience those, human rights violations for many years, they will not believe to politicians. Even though the intention is pure, they will not believe. And they will get that first chance to leave the country. Now border is open, just leave. Alright? So that way it will increase. But after a certain point, it will stop. At this point, it means that democracy level in origin and destination is same. There is no intention to go. Or the ones who left, they already see that what the government politicians they promised is true. They will come back. Okay? And the other one, the relationship between migration and working age. We said that in early ages, that the migration will increase because of because people are physically active. Yes, and very curious. So they would like to travel and work and earn a higher salary. But at a certain age, people, they are not traveling because they are physically weak. Or the ones who left the country because they are physically weak, they will come back. And another thing we were discussing about,
high salaries.
At the age of 40 and 50, you will reach already the highest level in your career. You already became a manager, or you are a CEO of a company, which means there is no much difference in your salary and abroad. No incentive to go. And another last argument, we said what? Attachment to the community. Our family members, right? Our children, grandchildren, people at that age, they don't want to go abroad and work. Okay? Good. So now we are done with our seminar.